So I've been thinking a lot about how I want to structure this channel. I recently started my weekly schedule, which is on Saturday night, Tuesday night, and Thursday night. Those are the nights that I'll post. But I think that there can be something more to that. Last week, I did a historical build. I did Pompeii. And immediately, the post after that, the one that came out on Tuesday, I wanted to make it the Aztecs because somebody in my comments, Clara K, shout out to Clara K, recommended that I do like an Aztec or a Mayan city or something. And so I thought that maybe I wanted to do that the next episode, but I realized, that's too similar to do two different historical builds back to back. So I thought, I should wait at least a week. And so now it's been a week, and this is the day that I want to make my Aztec city. And I thought maybe I could do a kind of schedule where every week I will have a Saturday video that's some kind of historical place, and then maybe a Tuesday video and this is up in the air, but maybe a movie reference. I'm not totally sure how deep that can go, but I did the Beam movie last Tuesday, and then this upcoming Tuesday I think that I might want to do Ratatouille and make kind of like a rat colony. So up in the air. Let me know in the comments if you think I should do any one thing or the other. But so today is the Aztecs, and that's what I'm going to build. So specifically, I'm going to build the Aztec city of Tenochtitlán, which is now Mexico City. And what's cool about this city, and I think really ties in well to this game, is that the city was originally built in the middle of a lake. It was built on, I think, a series of islands that they connected through like ground shifting or earth moving, whatever, engineering projects. And then parts of the city are islands, floating islands that are for farming and other uses, kind of on the periphery of the main central area. So to do this, I think that I want to find some really great spots on the map where there are grids that are rectilinear, so with a lot of right angles. And then after that, I can kind of fill in the outer area with more, city type things. Because the center of the city of Tenochtitlan was the sacred area where all the pyramids were and like the temples and blah 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 blah. And then the periphery were the neighborhoods. So just based off of this, it looks like the center, where there's a lot of rectilinear shapes, is over here. I think that I want to have one central avenue, maybe going through the whole city. But I don't know. See, there's nothing that great. Oh, actually, this right here looks pretty good. Maybe this should be the central avenue coming through like that. Okay. Maybe, what if I built it in this direction instead? So remove this. Oh, it kind of disappears over here. So this would go kind of zigzags like this. Okay, I can work with this. So let's start with one of the kind of smaller pyramids. Let's say that this is the central area. I guess the biggest pyramid should probably be at the end of the street. So the biggest pyramid can go here. Let's start with that one. Oh, but if the street is going to be around it, I should have this be the first layer, not this right on the inside. Yeah, so that way it can be a little bit larger. It's really not as big as I'd like it to be. I wonder, can I extend it like this, kind of to the side? One part of the pyramid will be curved, which is not ideal, but that's not the end of the world, right? Wow, to be honest, I wasn't expecting that to work, but it totally worked. Perfect. Okay, so that is the main pyramid, and it'll be at the end of this street right here. And then, what's that street called? Isn't it called like the Avenue of the Sun or something? Maybe it's 3 blocks wide, so I could probably go even bigger. No, but I shouldn't. I shouldn't, because there really has to be a city of substantial size around it, so that's kind of the maximum size I'll go. Perfect. There's number 2. And then for the next ones, I'll probably switch up the color a little bit. I still want to use warm colors just because, I mean, maybe it's stereotypical, but I always think of Mexico as very hot. I mean, I know it's obviously in reality very hot, but the warm colors thing. Perfect. Okay, and then maybe another one along the side here. And that one can be yellow. You know, I wish I keep putting them right on these five-sided tiles. Okay, let's move this one a little bit. This one can be a little bit larger. I think these are 3 levels, so this one can be 4 levels. Will that work out? Almost. A little bit bigger. Perfect. Okay. Now, if that's it for the pyramid section, then I can start maybe building out the other parts of the city. Or, you know, maybe the central section can have some religious buildings that aren't pyramids. So maybe some kind of like quasi-government, quasi-religious structure thing over here. Like this. Just like maybe a long kind of warehousey shape. You know, it actually seems like some of these temples have flat tops. I can't tell if that's because they were destroyed or they kind of crumbled over time, but it seems like a lot of them don't have really big, like the pyramids in Egypt are just go up to a spike, but these ones are more interesting, I think, because they kind of go up to an upper layer and then they're flat, and then in the middle of the upper layer there's maybe 1 or 2 kind of hut type, obviously not huts because they're super nice, but like smaller buildings on the top. So maybe the biggest pyramid over here, I can make one of those. So I can extend it in size on one end, and that'll make a flat area up here. How is that not making a? Oh, it's wrong color. Okay, so that's better. And then on the top here, I can have these 2. Shoot, they're not. They're aligned in different directions. That kind of looks weird. What if it's? Oh, maybe 2 kind of fatter ones like that. And then maybe they're different colors. Because I think these pyramids were also multicolored and painted and stuff. Okay, so that looks more normal, more like a Maya or Aztec pyramid. And then these ones, I'll change one of these so it's got a flat top and then a shape in the middle. Perfect. Okay. So I think that can be pretty much it for the central kind of pyramid area. And then around it we've got the city. Now, what were ancient Aztec houses like? It seems like the city wasn't super dense like a European city is. The buildings weren't that tall. They kind of spread out more. Like in European cities, they're really stacked on top of each other, and it's really crowded and old and whatever. But these ones, it looks like, I mean, it's not crowded, but it's a lot of single-family buildings. Also, a lot of them are white too. That's a big thing. But before I do that, I should probably cover this area in ground tiles. Okay, so I got the ground layer down, and I think that I want to leave these areas to the side full of water, because eventually I think I want to simulate the floating farms. What are those things called? Like chanampas or something? Oh yeah, it is chanampas. Okay, cool. You know, I think I want to first of all define this street a little bit more. It doesn't really look like a super obvious street. It just kind of looks like a bunch of random buildings sprinkled around a courtyard. So to make it a street, what I'll do is I'll add structures like this to kind of help define the corners. And these can be small, just so they don't get in the way of the pyramids. Oh wow, that red pyramid should be closer to the middle. Let's do that. Maybe it should be a different color on top. Maybe they should all have white tops, just so it's consistent. Oop, it has to go one more layer out. Oh wow, this street is actually really, really wide. I think I have to add another layer. Oh, that's good. And then you got the staircases up there. Cool, that's even better than it was originally. Okay, now that central road is really well defined. So we'll line it at the bottom with some more. Maybe this can be kind of the central commercial area. So it's right at the end of this main road, so people kind of, at the end of their day, worshipping or whatever. Or maybe this is like where the parades and stuff start. So this can be the end of the busy street, and then it's free for commercial development. So people have built taller buildings, like 2-story buildings, and maybe even like stone ones, just to take advantage of the real estate. Now the street can diverge. It looks like it can go like that, or it can go, or I guess they both directions want to curve. So let's go with this curve. This is a better curve. Perfect. That can be some kind of bank or something. Now they don't have churches, but this can be something that kind of happens to look a little bit like what a modern church would look like, but it has some other purpose, some more commercial purpose. Maybe it can be like some kind of covered market or something. And then maybe one more stone building, one more of these central commercial structures. This can be long and kind of low. Just like that. Perfect. Okay. And then the houses are all these small kind of white structures scattered around. But I guess they still should be pretty big on this side of the map. Okay. And the road can kind of come along this corner here. And then just to add some variation, I don't love how, actually, I do like that. I do like how far apart they are from each other. It doesn't look as crowded as kind of a European city, but it still is crowded. So let's keep it like that. Keep it consistent. And then maybe over here there can be some kind of central, or no, over here there can be some kind of central marketplace just for this individual neighborhood. So the street here can maybe get double wide rather than single wide. Okay, so now we start this kind of central street. This central square. In this central square area, these can have kind of taller, shoppy buildings like this, with maybe store areas in the back. And then at the end, maybe there's just some covered market or something. And that can be a colored thing. That can be maybe a purplish color like this. Okay, perfect. And then around it, maybe we should have a roof. Yeah, that's good. And then around it there can be more neighborhoods. So it looks like the buildings that I'm building here, just totally accidentally, are both farther apart and larger than a lot of the buildings I was building kind of in this section over here. So maybe that can be because the buildings that are right up next to the pyramid are kind of in like the wealthier part of the city, because everybody wants to be right up against this big sacred space here. And then if it is wealthier, the building should also probably be more likely to have courtyards and parks and things like that. So maybe this building can be like a long public building just for this neighborhood, and it's got a courtyard in the middle which they all can enjoy. Okay. I wonder, did they have like arenas and sports and things like that? Interesting. So it seems like they used to play this ball game, and there's a modern version of it called Ulama, but the ancient one, Ulama Stadium. Anyway, the important thing is that it's an eye-shaped court. So that is something I've never heard of, an eye-shaped court. Maybe that can be kind of in this area, because it's still pretty central. It's next to this kind of commercial area, so there's probably a lot of people coming through here. And to make the eye-shaped court, this is a good place with a pretty good grid, so let's see, what's the best I can do? Okay, that worked out. But I don't think there was grass in the middle of it. I think it was a hard court game. So I think if I want to take out the grass, I can just put a water feature there. Yeah, and there's no grass created. So I'm kind of imagining the stands are right here and right here. And then maybe there's balconies in the side, but I'm not going to create those fully right now. Oops. And it shouldn't be larger than the pyramid, so let's keep it small. And then I'll make this a little bit lower, just so it's not in the way. Perfect. So that's the ball court. Apparently, in newer versions of the game, like newer in the most recent period when the Aztecs were around, then there was some human sacrifice involved, but I don't really know exactly how that worked. So maybe it makes sense that it's right next to all these pyramids, so that if the loser or whoever gets sacrificed, that's easy to do. It's just logistically not that difficult to get them from there to there or wherever they go. And we can make that symmetrical. Okay. Let's continue with these neighborhoods. Here, I think maybe I should make a gradient from really densely populated to not densely populated. Obviously, if this were real life, the city would be much larger, but I need to have it basically go to semi-rural as it reaches the water's edge, and then it can extend into farmland floating on the water. And then this is fine if it's kind of a wider street. That's okay. What other kind of Aztec architecture is there? There's got to be something else. Something else that's unique and distinctively Aztec. Huh. Okay, so I was right. It turns out, this is according to Wikipedia. One of the staples of all civilization is the separation of classes. As most civilizations do today, the Aztecs held this concept throughout their culture. As previously stated, the highest rank one could get in the Aztec social class was that of the priesthood. This gave access to the temples and the richer quarters of the civilizations. These individuals lived around the temples, while the lower classes lived increasingly further away according to their status. Okay, yeah, so that totally makes sense given what I was building earlier, where I had right behind the main building, I was kind of imagining, or the main temple, I was imagining that these were the largest buildings, where kind of the nicest neighborhood was, where all the richer people were, and those people are the priests, it looks like. And so maybe I can emphasize that actually. Let's emphasize that. So maybe I can make another one of these courtyards over here, just so the rich people have more amenities, I guess. I mean, that building is kind of all over the place, but still pretty okay. Maybe I can make this tower symmetrical. Okay, now it's symmetrical, and let's add like a little something to make it more detailed. Okay, perfect. What else is there? So the city is definitely laid out on a grid structure, and there's clear hierarchy of roads where there's one main central road going through the city, surrounded by kind of less important avenues, surrounded by smaller roads. Now it looks like in the outer parts of the city it kind of turned into islands, maybe. So maybe the roads kind of turn into like canals or something. So maybe I can increase the presence of the water in the main part of the city, and then I can build the floating farm areas on the outside. Also, the benefit of doing this is it is a good way of kind of segregating the richer parts of the city from the poorer parts of the city, so you can see the difference. So here, definitely this style of development is very different from the style of development over here. So I think maybe right along here I can have one of the separating canals. Perfect. Is that wide enough? I think that's wide enough. And then where else are there differences? Maybe, I mean there's differences between this and this, but that's just because of the how close they are to the center of the city. So there shouldn't be a canal there, but maybe I can add a more jagged water's edge over here, just so it's not so perfectly smooth. What's cool about having corner paths like this is that it'll make a little walkway with a door on the edge, so even though it's kind of a weird shape, it still gets reconciled in the game. So cool, very good game design. Cool. Okay, I think I've gone around the whole map and made the perimeter a little bit more jagged. Oh, but I forgot the whole canal thing. Okay, now I gotta add some canals. Okay. Maybe separating this part of the city from kind of the main commercial area. Perfect. That can be a canal. And then maybe just a random canal here. So there's not really anything to separate anything else from, but I just gotta have canals in different places for no reason. Maybe a little bridge, because it's right next to this kind of downtown area, so there should be some way of getting to it. And the good thing about doing a single layer of bridge is that it will add a little arch beneath it, so it there's still an explanation of why the canal's there, or how the canal's there. Okay, so I think that's good for the shape of the whole place. And then now I can start adding the farm fields, the Chinampas. And then these should be, I think, I mean, obviously it's not going to be perfectly organized, but these should be kind of as neat as possible. How can I do this in a way that looks good? I mean, they're supposed to be really small, so just like this maybe. And you're kind of supposed to imagine that these are floating farms over here. I don't like how they switch directions so easily or so quickly here. So let me turn these 90 degrees and make them more in line with this area. So it's definitely a little bit weird that this main street just immediately turns into a rural area. So I'm going to add some houses down the middle of this road, just so it turns into something a little bit less, jarring. So I think the Chinampas are done, and they actually look really good, a lot better than I was expecting them to. I kind of wanted to make it look like they were getting less dense as you got to kind of the edges, so you'll see the edges have more of these single tiles, whereas the center will maybe have 3 or 2. A better example is probably over here, where I have rows of 3, rows of 2, and then 1 over there. Like that. Perfect. So now I just have to build something right there. There's got to be one more interesting, kind of unusual, non-residential building type that existed that I don't know about. Let's do more research. So whenever I look up the architecture, famous buildings of the Aztecs, the only thing that comes up are the temples, which is too bad because I'm sure there are other interesting things. Okay. So this last building, what shape are we dealing with? It's a pretty good gridded area. There was one building that I saw that had a tower in the middle, and I haven't really done a tower yet, so let's do that. So let's make up this yellowish color, yellowish brown, sandstone-y shade, and then this, and then like that. Now that looks nothing like the one that I saw in the picture, but that's okay. And then maybe it has some kind of supplementary, like priest building or something right next door. Almost like a rectory for Christianity, but for whatever religion the Aztecs were. Okay, so I think now it's time for the grand tour. So the main feature of this whole build is clearly this central pyramid. It's the tallest thing around. It's big, bold, red at the very end of this main street going down the middle of the city, Tenochtitlán. And then at the top, it's got these 2 kind of towery things. And I think that when there were human sacrifices, there was a staircase going up all the way to the top. And then, oh, actually I can make the staircase. Oh, that's great. Oh, that's so good. Okay, yeah. So this staircase goes all the way up to the top, and then there's like human sacrifices or something, just general religious services in this kind of top area over here. And then, oh, actually I should probably make this taller, just because the staircase feature goes too high. Perfect. And then along this road, there are some other temples. Other temples here, here, and here. The only named temple I could find was Templo Mayor. I'm sure that these other ones have names to them, like Temple of the Moon and stuff, but I just don't know what they are. I think the Templo Mayor is the Temple of the Sun, and then the other ones are temples to smaller, less important things. And so you can see each of them has a general kind of pyramid typology, but the top is something different. So this one just kind of ends in a spike, this one ends in some kind of platform, and this one ends in a platform, but there are no towers on it. Maybe I should probably add a tower, just to make it look kind of nice. Maybe on the edge, like that. Okay, like that. And then as you go down this road, then you start getting into commercial buildings, kind of where humans are, things people build. These buildings here, maybe there's some kind of not really religious, but at least still central building, like a important shop or something. I don't know. Honestly, I mean, they weren't really tourists, so at least not in the way that we have them. So I don't know if there'd be like official gift shops and things like that. But whatever, that's what that is. And then these kind of more permanent buildings are probably stone, whereas these ones are like adobe or something. And come to think of it, I don't even know if Aztec buildings were made of adobe, but anyway, these are also some more permanent buildings. So this kind of looks like a church, but it's not a church, obviously, because they didn't have Christianity. And then this building could be kind of like a central marketplace or something. And then you can kind of go around, and you go into these different neighborhoods. I noticed when I was looking at pictures of the city that there were a lot of single-family buildings. Now those could just be the archaeologists' renderings, like they could have been super densely packed like European cities were, but from what the pictures showed, it seemed like the cities were pretty low and spread out rather than huge and kind of crammed together. So you've got these kind of independent buildings all through here. There's lots of canals because the city was built in the middle of a lake, and so everything here is reclaimed earth, and so there's probably places where there's still water and they form canals through the city. Then here, this little section is like a central square area, so you can see the street doubles in size. There's two-story buildings here, kind of along the side here, along this side. Maybe they're shops or something, and then the end, there you have like a central marketplace, which is a big covered market area that has hollowness beneath it, so it's pretty much just the roof. And then as you continue, another one of these canals, continue, and then here is kind of a nicer, richer neighborhood. According to my research, I assumed this before my research, but my research verified that the buildings that were closest to the main temples were also where all the rich people lived. So it was a very segregated and unequal society where there were priests, this kind of priest class, who lived right near the temples in these really nice houses. And so you can see some of them have courtyards, maybe they're public parks or something, public facilities. But regardless, all these buildings are a lot larger than the buildings in a place like over there, for example, where they're kind of smaller and closer together. And then this road kind of continues through here, and then it merges with this road that forms kind of a T with the main road. But then if you continue down this way, you get to this building, and I'm kind of imagining that this is like a not quite religious, more kind of governmental building. So I don't exactly know what that would be like, but I guess it's more secular, so it's not this kind of pyramid shape here, but it is still really grand. And then as you continue, there's more neighborhoods, more kind of poorer neighborhoods, I think, with a lot of more small houses, basically. And then here is pretty close to the center of the city. Of the residential areas, it's probably the closest to the temples. So this is the most densely populated place with the highest buildings. Now I don't know how high Aztec buildings were. These ones go up a maximum of like 3 floors, actually in this case 4 floors. So I don't know if that's historically accurate, but we're just assuming it is. And then as you continue, you go down the street, you continue and across another one of these canals, and then build a bridge. And then you're back where you started. You're back kind of by the entrance to where all the temples are. So that is the tour of the main city, and then on the periphery, you've got the Chinampas, which are like these floating gardens that Aztec cities, or maybe just Tenochtitlan, had around its center. Obviously, as I mentioned before, it was built in a lake, so they really had to use each square inch of their land economically. So they farmed on these big floating rafts that were off the shore, basically, of the main city. So that's why they're all kind of independent and floating. Ideally, they would be green. I would really love for this game to have some way of just making a square automatically a green color. But this is the best I can do for now. And honestly, from far out, it looks pretty good. So that is my build. That is the Aztec city. And I think now it's time for the review. Oh, but before I do that, actually, I forgot this one building. This building here. I think this is actually the coolest building I built. It's the court for this ball game that they had, where it was a little bit like, I think, racquetball, I'm not totally positive, but basically there'd be stands right here. There was an eye-shaped court with a rubber ball that they'd kick around, and I think there were like goals or hoops or something on either side. And then the loser, I think the loser might have gotten sacrificed, or maybe it was the winner. I'm not totally positive, but I know that in the later era of the Aztecs, it involved human sacrifice in some way. So that's that. Okay, now it's time for the review. So this build gets a +1 for me actually doing real research before I started. Gets a +1 for some pretty cool engineering. Gets a +1 for the Chinampas. I think it's a pretty interesting way of doing agriculture. A +1 for the fact that I completed this video 3 days early. 1 for the cool central pyramid. I was not expecting the central pyramid to end up looking as cool as it did, but I'm pretty proud of it, especially the staircase going up the middle. And then it gets a -1 for the human sacrifice, and a -1 for the fact that all my other pyramids are kind of ugly, to be honest. So overall, it gets 8.
Well, that's it, folks.